Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Richie. I'm the Regional Landcare Coordinator with North East CMA. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Victorian Landcare Grants 2026 briefing and Q&A. We will be going through this presentation now. Before we do that, I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the lands on which we're all meeting here today. And I'd like to pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners as the first true land carers of this country. So, Landcare Grants have landed for another year. For those who are unfamiliar with Landcare Grants program, so Landcare Grants, it's an annual grants program funded by the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action, or DECA. It's an annual grants program funded by the state government. Each of the 9 CMAs and Melbourne Water will administer their own grant program in their regions. This year we've got 3.55 million, which was the same as last year's allocation, which will be provided to the program, and we have $337,250 for this year's program, which is the same as last year. The grants program opened on the 4th of March 2026. The grants program will close at 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 23rd of April 2026, which is about 5 weeks from now. The hope is that that the minister will have the final list of approved projects approved, and we'll be able to notify all applicants in August 2026, hoping for Landcare Week, but we can't guarantee that. We do try as hard as we can to try and make that happen, but we are it is at the discretion of the minister when they make these announcements. All projects or successful projects, need to be completed and reported on by the 30th of November 2027. So you'll have just over 12 months to complete your project. Same as previous years, applicants are able to apply for up to $20,000 or a support grant of $500. The support grant, if you apply for a project grant and your group is not successful, you can also be put into consideration for a $500 support grant, essentially as a bit of a consolation and just to keep the group going until the next year. Overdue and unreported grants from 2023-24 program. So this is the projects that should have been completed by the 30th of November 2024. Sorry, my mistake. 2024-25. If those projects have not been reported on, or a valid reason communicated to me or Kerry, then they're not going to be eligible for this year's program. So that's any project from last year that should have been completed in 2025. 30th of November. If it has not been completed or reported on, and Kerry and myself have not had communication with your group, then you won't be eligible for this year's program. Applicants with a track record of late completion of projects, so continuously completing their projects after the 30th of November, will be assessed appropriately. If your group continuously does this, we can't be we need to be fair to those that have a good track record of completing projects. So we need to consider that as part of our application. If you're unsure where your group is standing at the moment in terms of overdue grants, please contact me as soon as possible. And you can contact me via phone or email. My contact details I'll put up at the end of the presentation. This year, there's been some minor tweaks to the application. We'll try to simplify the eligibility question at the start of the application form. So now you've got 4 questions that are all required fields before you can move on to the rest of the application. So first question, is your organisation a community-led Victorian Landcare or environmental volunteer group or network? For pretty much everyone in this room, I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be a yes. Does your group have an on-ground focus? So are the activities that you are doing, are they outside on the ground? Are you planting trees? Are you doing fencing, weed control, engagement activities? If you answer yes to any of those activities, then you can answer yes to this one. Does your group also have insurance of at least $20 million? That's just a group liability. If a group does not have any insurance, then it's not safe for you to complete a Victorian Landcare grant, and as such, we wouldn't be able to assess you. And also, does your group have your own incorporation number? If you do, simple, you move on to the next part of the eligibility. If your group does not have your own incorporation number, you need to be auspiced by an organisation that does. That can be either one of the networks within the region, so look to your parent network, contact them and make sure you have a letter of support from them saying that they do auspice your application. If you can't get one through your network, then you need to contact LVI pretty much right now, because this time of the year they're getting a lot of questions from groups asking for letters of support. You need to contact them and get a letter of support from them ASAP as well. LVI did this last year. It's just as simple as sending them an email, providing them some information about your project, what your project is, your group, the project synopsis, and that's about as much information as they need. But just contact LVI, they'll clarify what it is that you need. As previous programs, there's 5 accessible questions. Land and environmental outcome, each question is weighted the same. Land and environment outcomes, community engagement and capacity building, demonstrated need and community benefit. We'll go through building strategic context. So this is where the demonstrated need and community benefit comes in. We'll go through this question and give you and do a really quick how-to guide later on in the presentation. The project design and group network capacity and the budget. Each of those is worth an equal 20%. I'll go through the whole application shortly, page by page, and I'll explain what each question actually means and how best to respond to that. I'll go through the budget in more detail in a moment. And the last part of the application is a group health survey. It's a simple, one single question. How do you self-assess your group as trailblazing, rolling along smoothly, moving forward, struggling along, or just hanging on? Be honest, it's not a judgment. We just need to know how the groups are faring. And if your group is submitting more than one application, you only have to answer this once. In the eligibility, there's a question at the start that does ask, is this the only application you've completed? Yes or no. If you answer yes, this is the only application, you'll be asked to complete the group health survey question. If no, it's not the only application, the only submission, then you won't be asked to complete this a second time. All right, we'll go straight to the NECMA website, and I'll show everyone how to get to the application part of the website. If you hang around long enough on the banner here, you will see that there is a link to the Victorian Landcare Grants. Click that, and that'll take you into the application part of the NECMA website, which has got a link to the application form. All the information that I've already gone over is in here as well as the guidelines. And this is where we will put the recording. And also my contact details are here as well. How to apply. Click the link here, which is the delt.smartygrants, etc. That will take you to the portal, so you can log in. You can log into your group's Smarty Grants profile. You can complete a new application, continue an old application, or start a new application. Make sure that you do log in. And if you've started an application already, you'll be given the opportunity to continue, or you start a new submission. You can also, from here, download a preview of the form. If you've got multiple people that will be working on the application at the same time, this is how you can get a copy of the same form so you can all contribute equally to the application. Since I've already opened this up, we will start with continue your submission. And here we go. First page is just general information. Read through that at your leisure. Next page. I've cheated a little bit here. I've already got some responses in here, so just let me clear them out. All in the first page in the eligibility section, these are all required fields. You won't be able to continue into the assessment until you've answered each one of these questions. If any of your responses show up that you're not eligible, then you won't be allowed to continue any further. We did this at the start, so we didn't waste anyone's time. So we didn't want people to go through the whole application and then realize at the end, actually, we're not accessible. So we've asked these questions at the start. This is just the quick run through which applications are not going to be accessible. So the first question, is your organisation a community-led Victorian Landcare group? Most of us, that'll be a yes. Does your group network focus on on-grant activities? Yes or no? Does your group have insurance? We'll see that there'll be different responses that will come up as you click this. No, we don't have insurance. Then you won't be eligible. Yes, we are insured as a current financial member of LVI. Yes, you'll be allowed to continue. Or yes, we have our own insurance that you've sourced through another organisation. For most of us, your insurance will be through LVI. And does your organisation have its own incorporation number? Yes or no? If you have yes, you'll be allowed to continue the next part of the question. If no, there'll be a section on hospicing that you'll have to complete. You'll notice in the top corner here, all the responses here are still grayed out. That's because I haven't decided on the type of project that I'm applying for, be that project or support grant. If you look in the top corner, you'll see that as soon as I click project grant, all the options open up again. And lastly, is your group or network, is this your only group or network? Is this your group or network's only application? Yes or no? For most of us, you'll probably be only putting in one application. That's perfectly fine. Hospicing, this is where you will be prompted to just remember that you do need an hospice. Start that process early. Don't wait until Thursday the 23rd before you contact LVI asking for an hospice, because they won't get you on. It will be too late. You need to start that process now. And if your grant is unsuccessful, would you like to receive a support grant of up to $500? Everyone tick yes. If you tick no, you won't get $500 if you miss out. Tick yes. Just tick yes, please. It's money that you can get literally for nothing. It'll keep your group going for another year to pay your insurance costs. And then we will move on to the next page. From here on in, you can save progress. You don't have to fill in every single box to move on to the next page. Section 2 on eligibility is the only section that you need to have a response to each question before you can move on. This is where we just want to know about your project. Actually, I'll jump back one step. If your group is only applying for a support grant, you won't have to do anywhere near as much of the application. You just need to do really quick, short budget. What's your $500 support grant for? Insurance, incorporation, operational costs, $500, and describe those activities. It's just a couple of lines. It's to pay LVI insurance, meeting halls. That's about it. And then organisation details. The rest of that I'll cover at the end. But you've only got one question to answer if you're only doing a support grant. I'll jump back to indicate that we are doing a project grant, because for most of us we will be. First question is, part of the application is just, what is your project title? Come up with something catchy, make it eye-catching. And a really quick summary, what is it that you're doing? This is just really high level stuff. We've got a couple of prompting questions here as well, which is what is the issue that you want to address? What would you like to do? And what do you hope to achieve? 3 questions, 3 lines. That's it. This isn't accessible, so don't do a 500-word essay. You are limited to 75 words anyway, but you don't need to use every one of those 75 words. Just give us an idea on what you're going to be doing in your project. We use this for the media releases. There'll be this will be what is put up on the DECA website once the minister's made the final approval. Section 4. Now is where we come up to the accessible questions. We've broken these questions up a bit to, some of you may remember a couple of years ago, each assessment criteria would usually have a couple of different things that you needed to cover to score well. We've tried to break it up to make it a little bit easier. Is it perfect? Still needs work, obviously, but these are the questions that we think get the information that we need, and hopefully the easiest to understand by everyone. Each criteria also has a couple of prompters. At the very top, strong responses include. Use these as a guide. If you read your response if someone reads your response and they can't clearly tell you what the issue is, the specific issue that the project wants to address, or you can't explain the difference that your project will make in the long term, then you haven't answered the question. Make sure it addresses each one of those questions. Second question, partnership and skill development. Strong responses include the specific partners that will be involved. Who are you involving? How are you involving them? It's easy to say that you're going to engage with the local school, but how are you going to engage with them? Are you going to be doing workshops in the school, inviting them to a tree planting day? You tell me, but give us the information. If the assessment panel is left guessing or can't clearly make they can't draw a clear link, then you haven't answered the question properly. What will be their level of involvement? You can your level of involvement might be to just notify them that there are events going on, or you can bring them along the journey. You can have them part of your project, delivering specific things, or anything. Just tell us what that level of involvement is. The level of support from landowners and land managers. So this is where we need to know, and this is public land managers. So if you're doing a project that is occurring on a DECA or Parks Victoria estate or council estate, let us know about that. How are you involving them? How are they involving you? And the skills that your group and volunteers will learn. What are people going to learn from this project? Demonstrated need and community benefit. So this is where we start talking about strategic plans. And as soon as we talk strategic plans, most people usually just turn their brain off and just think this is silly. The funds for the Victorian Landcare Grant don't just come out of nowhere. The grants program is funded by another financer, be it through other state government funding. We need to justify to them that the money that they are investing in the Landcare Grants program is being spent well. And so in order to prove that, you need to be able to prove that what you are doing is linking to something else. There needs to be a reason why it's happening. Most of the time, any tree planting project you're doing is going to have good biodiversity values, but link it to a plant. And we're trying to make that the easiest way to link possible. So the question here, does your project align with the Biodiversity 2037 goals of Victorians value nature? Are Victorians connecting with nature? Does your project connect with nature? Or Victorians acting to protect the natural environment? Does your project act to protect the natural environment? Yes or no? If you can't tick yes to either one of those questions, then you're probably applying to the wrong grant program. This is the easiest way that we can link your project to a strategic plan. If you do tick no, we're probably not going to fund you. That's a free one. Does your project align with the Biodiversity 2037 goals of Victoria's natural environment is healthy? Does your project align to any one of those 4 points? Threatened species conservation, pest herbivore, predator, weed control, revegetation, or remnant protection of private land? In most cases, it will be a yes to that as well. And you can select more than one. For both of these questions, you can select more than one. Don't tick all 3 boxes because that just gets confusing. Regional catchment strategies. Northeast has our own regional catchment strategy. Some of you, if you started an application earlier, you may have seen some incorrect text in here. I've fixed the form up so that now you can go directly to the Northeast Regional Catchment Strategy website, and I'll show you now how we can link to the RCS in just 2 seconds. Victoria's Environment Volunteering Plan. Have you aligned the project with the RCS LVI's plan? Yes or no? If you have, it will ask how and which plan it is. The second part, does your group network use a document plan to guide its activity? Yes or no? If your group has a strategic plan, great. If it doesn't, that's not going to penalize you, but just be honest. And does your project align with another plan? Yes or no? You don't need to align to 20 plans. 1, 2, or 3 is great. You're already linking to Biodiversity 2037 at the top of the page. But if you can link it to one other's plan, be it the RCS, LVI's plan, or Victoria's Environmental Volunteering Plan, or your own plan, just pop it in. Now, this is the part where I show you quickly how to link to the RCS. Now, I am going to ask for a little bit of audience participation here. So, I would like for someone, I'll pick this person at random, give me a random activity that you would like to, a random activity that you can apply for within the BLG. First person to put their hand up gets to participate. Please don't leave me hanging. Kerry.
An engagement event to ID weeds in your area.
Weeds. All right. So there's the activity. It's an activity. It's an engagement activity on weeds in the area. So our regional catchment strategy is divided into 4 different themes: land, water, biodiversity, and community. I'm going to take a stab and say that when we're addressing weeds, this theme that is linked to the theme of land. Just as a hypothetical as well, if you were planting trees, that would also apply to land, and probably more than likely biodiversity. If you're doing a project that was on a threatened species of some sort, that would again, depending on the species, if it's a land or air-based animal, probably land and or biodiversity. If it was a fish species or some other water species, we'd look at water. If you are just doing activities such as engagement events or training events, building community resilience, things like that, we'd be looking at community as our theme. But we'll go back to Kerry's project on engagement events for Kerry. Is it weed ID or weed management?
Weed ID is what I was thinking.
ID.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We click on land. Within each theme, there's a bit of information on what the theme means in our region. All good information. Down the bottom is where we see outcomes and priority directions. This is where we get into the specific information on what the RCS is going to try and achieve. Click that little pointy down arrow, and as you scroll down further, you've got a whole bunch of little statements that will indicate, or this is where you can link to. This is where your project links to one of these statements. It does require a little bit of reading. Now, Kerry, you're going to make me read through each one of these to find one that links to weeds. If anyone can see one, help me out. Land managers working in partnership with agencies and other land managers to control the impact of pests, plants, and animals on productivity and biodiversity. So we're talking about weed ID. Weeds are pest plants. Um, this is one way that we can link to the RCS for that specific activity. We may well find a better response within biodiversity. We'll just have a really quick look. This is as complicated as it should be. Does require a little bit of scanning through. So if you can't find, whenever you're looking through this, if you can't find a statement that you think aligns best, have a look through one of the other themes that you think links to it. At the moment, I can't find one of the themes within biodiversity that links to weed management or weed ID. So then I would revert back to land and we go back to that. So I'm hoping that that provides a little bit more information on how to link to the RCS. If you're unsure, give me a call. And I'll go back to our application. So that's how you link to a strategic plan for your project. You need to link to at least one or two. Next accessible criteria, project design and group network capacity. Who's doing what? How are you doing it? What's the timeline of activities? We'd like to see that you've thought through when you're doing each specific activity. And don't be too vague. What a good approach is to do it either month or season. Quite often people will say we're doing tree planting in autumn/winter. That's a bit dependent on the weather. So there's a little bit of variation, but we just want to make sure that you're thinking through all the steps of your project in a logical sequential order and list the key activities. Each activity should have its own line, when you want it to happen, and why that's happening then. So you're planting trees in winter because that's the best time to plant trees. You're running an engagement activity at the end of tree planting because that's the best time to showcase what you've done in the project to your community. The plus box here, that's how you add an extra box. You don't need to do every single activity, such as photocopying for the event is one line, contacting the event coordinator, one line. We don't need that level of detail, but just generally when you're hoping to start every activity within your project. What skills and resources will be used to deliver the project? If you've got a group, someone in your group that has got the mapping skills to do the mapping, or you've got a graphic designer that you know, put these things down because it shows that you're engaging with the community and how you're using group skills to deliver the project. If every single activity requires a contractor to do the work, certainly not saying that that can't happen or you shouldn't do that, but it's good to showcase that land carers know what they're doing and are delivering on a lot of these things. So show that, promote what you're doing. So that's the first four of the assessable questions. Question on the budget does come a little bit later. So we'll jump to the next page. Land manager consent. This is what we need. You need permission to do what you're doing if it's on public land or someone else's property. If it's on private land, just a good indication that you have communicated with each of the landholders so that they know that you're planning on doing this project on their property. If you are doing a project on public land tenure, so DECA, Parks Victoria, Council type estate, you need a letter of support that explicitly says that, and not one from 3 years ago. That's happened in the past where people have submitted letters of support from 5 years ago and think that that still stands. Unfortunately, no, it doesn't. And where's the location of the nearest town? The activity outputs. What are the activities that you're going to do? fencing, revegetation, rabbit control, etc., etc., etc. Just let us know. Fencing off, revegetation, and rabbit control. What type of fencing? And this is where you can also, is it going to be something that you're doing? Are you engaging a contractor? How much of it? And how many hectares are you planning on containing? These are the numbers that we need for reporting. Oh, sorry, not for reporting, but this tells us how much you're planning on doing with the $20,000 that you're hopefully going to be given. We also want good value for money for this. If you want $20,000 to fence off to do a kilometre of fencing, doesn't indicate good value for money. If you want $20,000 for 50 trees, also not good value for money. So be realistic. Don't be unrealistic. Don't try and promise the world. You need to be realistic with what you're planning to do. Rabbit control, how are you doing that? Is it going to be ripping or fumigation? Some of you may have seen the guidelines that while ripping is still the preferred method of control, it kind of goes against the spirit of the Landcare Grants to be fumigating rabbits, even though it is a more effective way. But the preference is for ripping where possible. Understandably, in some areas, ripping rabbit burrows, it's not possible due to an existing threatened species that lives there, such as a plant species or another animal species. For cultural reasons, ripping through an area that could potentially be potentially an Aboriginal burial site or something of that nature. There's certain sensitivities that mean that ripping can't occur. Fumigation can then be your next option, but where possible, ripping is the preference. And does your project include work benefiting threatened species? If it is, celebrate that. We want to know. And these are the good news stories that really that we use to justify to the investors that the money is being well spent. Next section on budget. Again, this is where we want you to be realistic. So every application can apply up to $20,000 as a maximum. As part of this, you can include 15% project management costs. This is the costs of, say, you, the group. If you've got one of your volunteers that's doing work for to organise things, then that's your administration costs. If you're employing a project officer to physically do the work, make sure that that's where you explain that. Every group should be putting this in. Don't not include that in your project, because that's money that should rightfully go to the group for the work that you're doing to cover your costs and your time and your labor, your efforts, your smarts. Does it include capital items? Are you purchasing equipment? There is a limit on how much you can purchase in capital equipment. Off the top of my head, I think that's $1,500 as a maximum. Group operating costs. Indicate which ones you are including within your application. Within each category, so if you're doing an engagement event, for example, best way to do this is if you're planning on running 2 engagement events, a fencing project, and revegetation, each one of those activities should have its own line. Say, for example, we're running an engagement event. What is it? You might be employing a contractor to do the work. Indicate that. Engagement event, the contractor, description of the event, for example, the name. So weed ID, site number if relevant. If you've got lots of spots on the Google Maps, on your Google Maps that you'll submit as part of the application, if you've got lots of different sites that you're doing things, put each as a unique ID and link it back to this. And funds requested. So for your engagement event, the total cost might be about, say, $2,000. There you go. There's our engagement event budgeted for. I've done that very briefly, very, very simply. In the description of item, you put a little bit more information than just weed ID. I'm just doing this very quickly, very briefly. give us a little bit more information. Weed ID event to be conducted in August 2026. Contractor is Joe Smith. And down the bottom, the budget check gives you a running tally. Each single item becomes something. Becomes a it'll add up into that tally for you to be able to accurately identify how much money you are needing for your project.
Did you want some of these sushi rolls now?
No, I'll just see if I can take some.
And as we can see in this, so we've got our project is $20,000. We haven't allowed for project management within that. That is also, my apologies, it's not actually in there as a, comes later in the application. No, sorry, you've got to tick that box first. Project management then becomes another box that you have to fill in. For a $20,000 grant, maximum project management you can apply is $3,000. So there'll be a little bit of a calculation that applies down here. So budget check, total amount requested is $20,000. Total project management is 0. Incorrect. We need to apply $3,000 based on the budget that we've got in the project budget, materials and contractors. We need to adjust that so that we're not going over. Does require a little bit of maths. As long as the number in % of total budget does not go over 15, you're okay. If it goes over, you need to scale something back. Group operating costs. That is where, if that's where your insurance for LVI would come in. So make sure you include that as a line item as well. It requires a little bit of maths bouncing around, but make sure you've got these couple of things included before you start adding in all the project details in the budget section. So make sure you've got your budget, the project management and the $500 support grant, so the $500 support grant component. Make sure you've got those in the budget first, work back from there. So it's going to leave about $16,500 for you to actually put in the on-ground deliverables as a maximum. And in-kind contributions, this is where we want to know about where the different partnerships, other funding you've leveraged, contributions from your groups. Your group, each volunteer's labour is calculated at $44.16 per hour. Make sure you're recording or putting in a reasonable estimate on what it is that the volunteers in your group are actually contributing to this project. And we'd like to know what that is, and also what that estimate is. So it's not unreasonable for there to be almost a 1-to-1 in-kind contribution of $20,000 in-kind versus $20,000 grant. It's also not uncommon to have more than that as well, where the in-kind contribution is more than the actual value of the grant. But it paints a really good picture of how much your group is actually contributing to the project that isn't actually paid for. All right, we'll move on to the next page. The rest of this is just the administration of how do we contact you, your group's organisation, your organisation name, type of group, what government area you're in, what your address is, admin contact details and project contact details. This is where you can put all that information in. Is your group network officially supported by a DECA-funded Victorian Landcare facilitator? The answer to that for everyone is yes. We're one of the fortunate areas where every group has got the support of a Landcare facilitator. Every group is part of a network, and every one of those networks employs a Landcare facilitator. Auspicing details, if that is required. If your group has its own incorporation number, then this won't be highlighted at all. It won't be you won't be required to put in any response. But if you don't have your own auspice number, your own incorporation number, that's through Consumer Affairs Victoria. You need to have an organisation to auspice you. If you're not sure whether you have an incorporation number, or you think it may have lapsed, or you just don't know, there is a tool within the Consumer Affairs Victoria website to actually search for an incorporation, a group's incorporation number. So I would suggest you do that if you're not sure. And make sure the auspice knows that they're auspicing them. It's actually not legal to put down a group to be the auspice if they don't know that. So make sure that and if you don't have a letter of support, then we wouldn't assess the application. Bank details. We just use this to double check across our own finance system, so we know that the details that you've got on file are the same with ours. We just do a quick check just to make sure that everything's the same. Supporting documents. This is where quotes, if you've got them. Now, quotes are not required. They're great if you can get them, but we do understand it takes time to get a quote, to get someone to come out to a job site and do a quote. You are not required to put in a quote. If you can get one, great. What we want to know in the budget is that you put down a reasonable estimate on costs. So within the budget, if you're saying you want $5,000 for weed spraying, a little bit of a calculation on X number of hours at this many dollars per hour gives us an indication that you've actually thought it through a little bit, and you're not just saying $5,000 for weed spraying and that's it. It shows some calculation to indicate that you've actually you know how much you need, you know what area you're trying to cover. Give us a bit of information. But as far as quotes, they're not required, but they're great if you can get them. Again, it just shows that you've actually done some prior work. Other supporting documents. This is where letters of support from partner organisations, other documents that are relevant to what your project is, including a map of your project site. So if you're not sure how to do that, Google Earth is a great tool where you can draw some polygons, add text to it, and then you just do a really quick screenshot. That's as much information that we need in the map, as also providing that we've got some way of locating it geographically. If it's just a big patch of green with a couple of roads, no names, no creek names, nothing like that, we can't find that in the landscape. So what is good to do is a zoomed out image that shows where you are between 2-3 different towns, point to an arrow on the map, and then zoom into that spot and we can get a bit more detail. Any other supporting documents that you think are going to support your project is what we want to get here. Next page. This is where you get to complete the group health survey. It's just your self-assessment of your group. How are you going? Trailblazers, rolling along, moving forward, struggling along, or just hanging on. Be honest. This is not a judgment, and it's not going to reflect badly on your group. It just tells us what support we need to provide within the region, how much support we need. If you're putting in multiple applications, you only do this once. If you've already completed the application once and filled in the group health survey, make sure you do tick that yes, you have completed it before. Otherwise, no, complete the survey. And then we're on to the last page, feedback and declaration. And this is where we want to get a bit of information on the actual application. How many people worked on it? How many hours? How easy was it? And any feedback you've got. Be honest. And also at the end of the application process, once we've done the assessments, then we'll come back and we'll actually ask some more questions to try and get some more information. We want to improve this form and make it better, to make it as easy as we can. There are some questions that we have to ask. They're just non-negotiable questions, but we need to ask them. But we do want to make it as easy as possible for the end user, which is you. And then the declaration, your name, position in the organisation. I accept the declaration, and that essentially comes to the end of your application. Congratulations, that wasn't that hard at all, was it? If you have not filled out any questions, it will then prompt you here. Download a PDF of your application. That'll give you a hard copy yourself. It'll be saved in your submissions anyway, but if you actually want to have a copy that you can then send off to other people, that's how you do that here. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. Marie, we can stop recording now.